Hello, I will talk about chess. Chess is an abstract strategic board game and a sport designed for two players. It is one of the most common and complex games existing in human culture. Estimates of the number of legal states in chess range from 10 to the power of 43 to 10 to the power 120. The game is accepted worldwide as both a hobby and a competitive sport. A person who plays chess professionally is called a chess player. The origin of the name is in Persian, Shah Mat, loosely translated to the king is dead, or ambush for the king. Victory in the game is achieved when one of the kings is threatened in chess by one of the opponent's pieces, cannot eat the threatening piece, block the threat with another piece, or escape from the threat to a square where it will not be threatened. Now I will talk about basic concepts in chess. The chessboard is divided into 64 squares with 8 rows numbered from 1 to 10. You can see it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And 8 columns marked with the letters A to H. A, column A, column B, column C, column D, column E, column F, column G, and column H. The squares are painted black and white, alternately, or in general a light color and a dark color. All four sides of a white square border a black square, and vice versa. So this is a white square, and it bordered with 4 black squares, and this is a black square, and it bordered with 4 white squares. So we should place the board so that the rightmost square in the row closest to each player is white. Yes, the rightmost square in the row. Yes, that is the first row, and the rightmost square, yes, from the point of view of the white side, yes. It is the rightmost square in row, and is the rightmost square in the row is white. As you can see, the square edge 8 is white. Yes. Now I will talk about the arrangements of the tools. Uh, we should place the tools on the board in the row closest to each player. So the row that is closest to me it is the first row, or number 1. Now I will place the tools from outside to inside. Okay, 2 rooks on the outermost squares. So this is the rooks, and I will place them in the outmost squares. Yes, 2 outmost squares in the first row. Then 2 knights. This is the 2 knights. I will place the here. Then 2 bishops. This is the bishops. I will place them after the knights. And in the 2 central remaining in the 2 central squares remaining in the row, queen in column 4, column 1, 2, 3, 4. The queen is in column 4, and king in column 5. This is column 5, and the king is in column 5. When the sign is queen in her color, a white queen in a white square, and the black one is in a black square. So you can see that the white queen is placed on a black square, and we will place the black queen in the black square. Yes, in the second row on each side, rows 2 and 7, we should place the pawns for the entire width of the row on all 8 squares. So on row number 2, I should place all the pawns. Okay, and in, I will place in the 7th row all the black pawns. Okay, that's what you need to do. Now I will talk about the characteristics of the tools. We will start with the king. This is the king. The most important tool on the board is the king, of course. He can move in any direction, straight or diagonal, one square in each direction. Yes, for example, if the queen is here, he can move to 8 squares in total. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Okay, as you can see, the king can move at any direction, but only one square. One square in each direction. Except for the case of castling. Castling, when you want to defend the king, you can actually do something that is called castling, like this. So in this case, the king moved 2 squares, and that is the only situation that he can move 2 squares. Okay, you can do also the castling in the other side of the board. It is something like that, and in order to defend the king. Okay, when the king but in this case, he moved only one square. Yes, only one square. It is a long castling, and in the short castling, he moves 2 squares. So he moved from here 2 squares to there, to C1. From E1 to C1. Okay? When the king is in a chase position, that is in a position where the opponent can eat him in the next turn, the threatened player must change this position by moving the king, blocking the attack line of the threatening piece, or by beating the threatening piece. Okay. in order to explain that thing, I first of all must to explain you how the other tools are moving, so I will explain it later. In order to win the game, the player must reach a position where his opponent cannot rescue his king from the threat of the chess, eat the threatening piece, or block the threat with his own piece. This state is called mate. Okay, I will explain it later. Despite its value as the most important tool, the king's movement is relatively limited. Unlike the other tools, it is not possible to evaluate the king with points for changing tools, because the king is not a tool that can be given up. Because if you give up your king, you actually lose the game. But in terms of its value, in the sense of the balance of forces and its tactical abilities in the game, it is estimated at about 2.5 points. Because the king has a limited range offensive ability, you can move only one slot in each direction. This ability is manifested mainly in advanced stages of the game, when there are not many tools left on the board. That is in the end game. Okay? Because you can divide the game into three parts. The first part is the opening, the second part is the middle of the game, and the third and last part is the end of the game. So in the end of the game, the king is manifesting his ability when there are no a lot of pieces on the board. On the same scale, the rook is valued at 5 points. So the rook is valued at 5 points. The knight, that are the knights. The knights are valued at 3 points. And so are the bishops. The bishops, this is the bishops, and they also their values is 3 points. The evaluation of the king's strength is used for tactical analysis, for evaluating a position with a free king or closed king. It is especially the end of the game. Now we finished to talk about the king. Now I will talk about the queen. This is the queen, the most powerful tool on the board. The queen is the most powerful tool on the board. Its advantage is in the flexibility of its movements, since it can move in any straight line, column, row, or diagonal. So it can move diagonally, yes, like this, or it can move straight, horizontally, or vertically, like this. And it can move as many squares as it wants in the same row. So, for example, it can move here, or it can move also here, or it can move also here, or here, and here. And so the same rule is moving vertically or horizontally. Yes, it is customary to evaluate, to estimate the queen at about 9 points. Now we will move to talk about the rook. The rook, this is the rook that can only move along the columns or rows. So can move along the columns or the rows. You cannot move diagonally. The rooks are usually more effective when they support each other and work as a pair. A special rule was assigned to the rook in the protection of the king during the castling. As I have already explained, you can do long castling in order to protect the king. That is one option. Or we also have the other option to do a short castling in order to defend the king. So it is customary to estimate the rook at about 5 points. Okay. Now I will move to talk about the bishop. The bishop can only move diagonally. Okay, so these bishops can move only on the black squares. Here, here, and here, 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 and here. You can also move in the main diagonal, main black diagonal, here, 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 and here, and also here, here, and here. So in this position, you can move on the main diagonal or on this diagonal. But you also have the bishop that is can move only in the white main diagonal or in this diagonal, only on the white squares. So the bishop especially effective in open situations. The bishop is the only tool that is limited to one slot color and cannot switch to the other color. So as you can see, that bishop can move only on the black squares, and that bishop can move only on the white squares. The two existing bishops together cover both colors of the boards. So in the event that one bishop is lost, part of the control over the board is lost. So you can see here that when you have two bishops on the board, they actually control on the black diagonal and on the white diagonal. So they have a lot of strength, but when one of the bishops is removed from the board because your opponent eat the bishop, then you have the control of the bishop only on the, if this bishop is moved, you have only one bishop that can control only on the white squares. Okay? It is usually estimated at about 3 points. But with the development of modern chess engines, it has been proven that its value in the relative majority of the position is estimated at 3.25, subject to dispute. There is also a slight advantage to the player who has two bishops against knight and bishops. So the side that has two bishops has an advantage on the other side that have bishops and knight, or two bishops are better than two knights. Okay, there is a slight advantage to the side that have two bishops, because the bishops is a little bit stronger than the knight. Okay? Now we will move to talk about the knight. This is the knight. The knight has a special movement, combines straight and diagonal movement. Alternatively, its move can be described as the letter L, because it moves like this, or like this, or like this. 1, 2 and right, 1, 2 and left, or 1, 2 left, 1, 2 right, or 1, 2 and down, 1, 2 up, 1, 2 up, 1, 2 down. So from this position, as you can see, there is 8 possibilities for the knight to move. His advantage is that tools don't block his movement, and he can jump over them. So, for example, if you have the rook here, the rook doesn't interfere, doesn't disturb for the movement of the knight. Okay? Because he actually can jump over the pieces, yes, over the black pieces. The knight is especially effective in closed situations and in the execution of a fork that is a threat to several tools at the same time. So, for example, if you have this is the situation that is called fork, because the knight is threatened to eat the pawn and also is threatened to eat the rook. In each move, the knight will move to a different square color. So, for example, if the knight moves to white square, then in the next move he will move to a black color. Yes, so it changed each move. The square color. Okay? If he moved to the black square. In the next move, he will move to the white square. Yes? It is usually estimated about 3 points and slightly less than the bishop. As I've already mentioned that the bishop is slightly stronger than the knight. So the last tool is the pawn. This is the pawn. Is the last in the hierarchy, and the most limited in its movement, also known as soldier. Can only move one square at a time. Yes, one square at a time, and only in one direction. The direction is forward. Forward, that is to say, the opposite direction to the side of the board. So, I am the white. I play as a white. So my pawns can move only in the forward direction. The pawns never move back. It can never move like this. It can move only in the forward direction. Yes, and from the black's point of view, the forward direction will be the opposite direction. Yes, it can only move like this, and it cannot move back. So, for example, in that position, this position, actually, that pawn is stuck because there is a black pawn that is placed here, so the white pawn cannot move because the black pawn is placed here and the white pawn is stuck. And also you can see from the point of view of the black pawn also cannot move forward because it is stuck by the white pawn. So if the place that the pawn is occupied by another tool, the pawn cannot move to that occupied place. So you can also, the same rule is if you put it knight in that square, that pawn is stuck because of the knight that is in the square before. Yes. During the first move of the pawn, and only during this, it can move two squares forward or one square according to the player's will. Okay, so only when the pawns are at the beginning position in the second row, they can move two squares. That is the only possibility to move two squares. So you can move, if you want, one square, or you can move also two squares. Only when the pawn is in the second row. If the pawn is here, from here you can move only one square. In the second row, he has the option to move two squares or one square. The way pawn beats is different from his usual way of moving. By moving one square diagonally only in the direction of his progress. So, for example, in this position, the pawn can eat the knight, because he can eat the opponent's tools diagonally. His move is forward, but he can eat the opponent's tool diagonally. Okay? Despite being a weak tool, due to its limited movement, pawn have an advantage one over the other pieces. If it reaches the last row of the board, it becomes any other piece except for the king of the same color, according to the player's choice. So, if the pawn reaches to the eighth row, you can change it to another piece. You can change it to a queen, yes, or a rook, or a knight, or a bishop. So that is the advantage of the pawn that no other tool can do, that process that is called crowning. This situation is called crowning. It is customary to estimate the pawn in one point, in relation to which the value of the other tools is evaluated. So, if the queen evaluated as 9 points, so it is 10 times 10 times more valued more 9 times than the pawn. Yes, and a special move of the pawn is en passant, is a special method of capturing in chess that occurs when a pawn captures horizontally adjacent opponent pawn that has just made an initial 2-square advance. The capturing pawn moves to the square that the opponent pawn passed over. So, for example, in this situation, if the white moves 2 squares, then the black has the right to hit the white pawn like this. Okay, so whenever the white side moves 2 squares, the black side can hit the pawn like this. That is the en passant rule. The rule ensures that the pawn cannot use its 2-square move to safely skip past an opponent pawn. Okay, thank you very much.